Hey everybody, another GMG review. Today we're back with Warhammer Age of Sigmar Order Battletome, the Lumineth Realmlords. It's the elves that like to cause mortal wounds, back to the new Battletome, basically updating them to 3rd edition. Although, as they were close to the end of 2nd, there's not a ton of adjustments. It feels like what's adjusted in here has less to do with the edition change, although they have added things like their own grand strategy and battle tactics and stuff like that, and a lot more to do with just some of the uninteractive stuff that was in the last book that people wanted to kind of change. So I've gone through here. Obviously, this is me trying to absorb a thing I've played against quite a bit, but not necessarily played as. And so buyer beware. I've tried to catch as many changes as I can, but I might not have caught everything. So what do we got here? We've got a 120-page full-color rulebook. That was kindly sent along by GW as a complimentary copy to review. It goes through the history of the elves, what's been going on with the fall, and how the Lumineth themselves are, you know, they're pretty aware that they're living in a post-apocalyptic fantasy world. And this is all to do with the Hyshian Aelves, which are from the Realm of Light. So there are some sort of like insights into their cities and stuff like that, which I actually really liked seeing. I thought it was cool to see like the Land of Illumination and some of like what Hysh looks like. Of course, it's got the background through the Necroquake and the rising of like the Durian monsters and stuff like that. And no real techless, or sorry, Tyrion stuff yet. They're not really digging into Tyrion. It feels like he's being saved for a separate sort of like release for this faction. So we're still pretty much on techless and all the magic users and mountainous stone mages and stuff like that. A nice full color section. And about halfway through we get to the painting guide. So we're at 66 already, so we're fully halfway through. That's all background for the army so far. And we're into some painting stuff. I loved this painting guide, but there was something about the eyes here where it got scary for a second. And obviously, because these are such light miniatures, they do really benefit from being painted with Citadel contrast. I painted my Miari's Purifiers for Warhammer Underworlds with all the contrast paints, and it was super quick and easy. You just got to take your time, right, when you're painting light colors, because you need to carefully paint in the panels, but you can do a lot of heavy lifting with those contrast paints and washes. So pretty comprehensive traditional and contrast guide. And then, as you've all been waiting for, we jumped into the armies of the Lumineth Realmlords and how they play. So first of all, battle traits. Pick a great nation. There's 6 of them. They all give you a different bonus. Those have been stripped down quite a bit to just a bonus. Lightning reactions during the combat phase. After any units with the first strike ability have attacked. So that's a new thing, I think, because I think all the first strike units have to go before this now. Can't remember if that was the case before, but I'm pretty sure that's like a 3rd edition call out now for timing. When it's your turn to pick a friendly Lumineth Realmlords unit to fight, you can pick 2 instead of 1. Neither unit can have the strike blast effect on them, so that's actually handy. That solves some timing issues that came up during games, like if they got stomped by a tree man or something like that. And each of those units can fight one after the other in the order of your choice. Aether Quartz, pretty much the same as before. Every unit has an Aether Quartz, and once per phase, you can say that one unit will use its Aether Quartz reserve, so only one can use it at a time. And however, if you do so, they're -1 bravery for the rest of the battle because they expend it. And then they can get one of 3 abilities out of that. Heightened Reflex, you get +1 save. Heightened Senses, sorry, just until the end of that phase. Heightened Senses, you can say they'll use this ability as if it was picked to shoot or fight. You get +1 to hit rolls for attacks until the end of the phase. And then Magical Boost, +1 to casting rolls, or re-roll a casting roll. So it's almost like being able to be issued like an all-out defense or all-out attack, basically, if you want. You'll notice that something that's missing from here is Shining Company. It's no longer an army-wide rule. This was kind of when we saw the battle box that put the Shining Company onto individual units. That was kind of not a surprise, and it does mean that there are units that don't have it anymore. So look for that in the when I start going through. Enhancements, so command traits. Lords of the Warhouse, so for your Venary, and the Venary are all the, well, I think it's just the banner guy. And because I think the Battleblade is, the Bannerblade is one, and the mounted Regent guy is one. So Grand Strategist, add one to the roll that determines whether you receive a command point if you do the Heroic Leadership action with this general. And then Consummate Warrior, once per turn you can reroll a hit roll or wound roll for the attack made with this general. And that's interesting because there's not a lot of rerolls in the game anymore. Or 1 save roll for an attack targets the general. So having a reroll is actually pretty rare in AOS. Almighty Blow, When the general fights, instead of piling in and attacking, you can say that they're going to do an almighty blow. If you do so, pick an enemy within one of the general. On 2+, they take D6 mortal wounds. So that's actually kind of cool to put on like a Bannerblade, put on like a little tiny, not so good fighty hero and be like, he's got my command trait, he's my general, and then just like blow people up. But then of course you risk losing it. If you have a War Master, because I think Teclis is a War Master. Don't quote me on that though, because he's a lover, not a fighter. He is not a War Master, so that doesn't work then. And then Lords of Brilliance for your Scenari, which is your casters. Spellmaster, once per battle you can get magical boost without spending your Aether Quartz. Lore Master, no 2 extra spells from Lord of Hysh. And then Fast Learner, this general can attempt to unbind an extra spell. In addition, the second time they do the unbind, they can reroll the unbinding roll. So basically they watch a spell get cast and they can try again. Command traits for the Wind Mages, Lords of Air. Grand Windrider, replace this general's Wind Leap ability with, if a friendly Wind Chargers unit starts a move wholly within 24, then it makes that move. It can move a characteristic of 16, it can fly. So the Wind Chargers all gain like extra range to the Wind Leap ability. I think it's only within 18 normally, so he boosts it to 24. Swift adds 3 to their move, and then Gravity Defying Champion, once per battle you can reroll a run roll, charge roll, or casting roll. Loads of Stone for your Stone Mages. Start your shooting phase, pick a friendly Spirit of the Mountain within 3 and give them +1 to their attack characteristic for Geomantic Blast. Now, Enduring, +3 wounds, Unyielding Toughness. At the start of your hero phase, you can pick a friendly Stone Guard unit within 6, add 1 to the wound characteristic of that unit until your next hero phase. Now, that will mean that guys can be slain when it drops off during the next hero phase. Your Venary heroes, the Sayari Pommel, the bearer starts with an extra Aether Quartz. Senlui Amulet, you can run and still charge. And then Waystone. Once you're battle in your movement phase, instead of making a normal move with the bear, you can pick a point in the battlefield within 12 of them. If you do so, just bamf them over there. They just can't be within 3 of the enemy. And then Heirlooms of Hysh for a Scenari. Phoenix Stone, once per battle, when you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a friendly Lumineth Realmlords hero within 12 of the bear, and that wound or mortal wound would cause the hero to be slain, roll a die. On a 3+, it's negated. You can heal D3 wounds, and any wounds that remain to be allocated are negated. So like it's a get out of jail free. That's a really handy one for your backline hero to like just be like, hey, Teclis, you're not dead. You're back to life with D3 wounds, and everything else that hit you is negated. Silver Wand, cast an extra spell, and Rune of the Senthoi, add an unbinding and dispelling roll. Add 1 to unbinding dispelling rolls for every friendly Scenari hero within 6 of the bearer. That's pretty handy. But yeah, I think that the Phoenix Stone is going to be pretty popular as either your enhancement or extra enhancement if you're taking a big character like Teclis, and a lot of Realmlord players obviously take Teclis. Artifacts of Power, Wind Blast Fan, this is for your Wind Mages. Once per battle at the start of the enemy movement phase, you can pick an enemy within 3 and they have to retreat. Windstone, once per battle in your shooting phase, you can pick an enemy unit within 18 of the bearer that's visible and roll a die. On a 1, they take a mortal wound. On a 2 to 4, they take 2 mortal wounds. And on a 5+, they take 4 mortal wounds. And then the Buffeting Asperagillum. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, pick an enemy unit within 3 of the bear, and if you do so, subtract 1 from hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made by that unit until the end of the battle, or until the end of that phase. Your Stone Mages get a 4+ mortal wound shrug with the Heartstone Amulet. The Molten Talismans, 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly ally or 3 units wholly within 12 of the bear if the bear did not charge in the same turn. So basically if you're standing still, you're +1 to wound. And then Magmic Hammer, add 1 to the number of mortal wounds caused by arcane bolts. And then your Spell Lords, there are just 3 of them? Yeah, 3 of them. There's the Winds, the High Peaks for your Allarth Wizards and your Hurricane Wizards, and then of course your Scenari and Venary get Lore of Hysh. And Teclis gets everything, because he's Teclis. He's the guy who taught us magic. Speed of Hysh, cast on 5, 18 inches, pick a Realmlords unit, wholly within range, double their move characteristic. That's pretty cool, especially if you're in Shining Company. Solar Flare, cast on 8 and range of 10. If cast, pick a point in the battlefield in range and visible to the caster. If there's an endless spell at that point, it's dispelled, and there's a unit. And if there's a unit at that point, roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit. For every 6, they take a mortal wound. You just blow up a point in the battlefield. It's neat that it kind of like bonus dispels a endless spell too. Protection of Hysh, it's the baby protection of Teclis. 8 to cast and a range of 9 inches. If you're wholly within range, you get a 5+ ward. But you can't cast in the same turn as Protection of Teclis, so you can't double down on the aura. Overwhelming Heat has a casting of 7 and a range of 24. If you cast it, pick an enemy unit wholly within range and visible to the caster. Have the move characteristic until your next hero phase. Then roll a die. If it's equal to or greater than their save characteristic, they take D3 mortal wounds. Ethereal Blessing. It's a spell that has a casting value of 6 and a range of 18. If it's cast, pick a friendly Lumineth Realmlords unit wholly within range invisible. Until your next hero phase, ignore modifiers positive or negative when making save rolls for attacks target the unit. And then Total Eclipse. It's a spell that has a casting value of 9. If it's cast, until your next hero phase, your opponent must spend 2 command points to issue a command instead of 1. Ugh. The worst spell. Just, your opponent must spend 2 command points to issue a command instead of 1. Such a gross ability. Still in there. My least favorite ability. All right, Lord of the Winds for Hurricane Wizards. Howling Gale, cast on 8 and range of 12. If you cast it, pick an enemy unit within range invisible. They can't issue or receive commands until your next hero phase. Again, that's gross, but not as good as... I mean, if you just get off Total Eclipse, you're basically saying the same thing. Lord of the Winds, Healing Zephyr is a spell that has a cast of 6 and a range of 18. If you cast it, pick a Realmlords unit wholly within range, and you can heal D3 more wounds allocated to them. Sporting Vortex is a spell that has a casting value of 8 and a range of 12. If you cast successfully, pick a Realmlords unit wholly within range invisible, remove them from the battlefield, and send them up anywhere more than 9. That's their move. So basically, bamf somebody somewhere. Lure of the High Peaks, Unbreakable Stoicism, cast on 7, range 12. Pick a friendly Stone Guard unit wholly within range, so it kind of leans into that. Their Crushing Blows come off on a 5+ instead of a 6 for their mortal wounds. Crippling Vertigo, cast on 6, range of 18. If you cast it, pick an enemy unit within range invisible until your next hero phase. Roll 2d6 before the unit makes a normal move, runs, retreats, makes a charge, or makes a pile-in. If the roll is greater than that unit's bravery, they can't make the move. So basically, just like you basically like pin someone unless they can. If they have good morale, it's not going to really matter. But if they have bad morale, you can pin them in place. And then Living Fissure. Cast on 7, range 18. Pick a point in the battlefield within range of the caster invisible and draw a straight line from that point to the closest part of the caster's base. Roll a die for each unit that has a model passed over. On a 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds. All right, we're into nations. All right, so there are once again 6 nations, and it's not a 7-nation army. Get it? White stripes. Immetrica, this is Mountain Realm. When the Immetrica Aelves units that have the Enduring Rock ability are targeted, they can ignore -1 and -2 instead of just -1. So that's the new ability. Basically, you can ignore -1 rend with all your Aelves units. Now it's -2. That's a... Ignoring -1 and -2 rend is a big deal for 4+, 3+ save models. There's not a lot of rend 3 in the game. I think that one's going to be pretty popular. Great Nation of Sire. Everybody gets 2 Aether Quartz instead of 1. The Elathians. Unity of Purpose. Once per turn, you can say that 2 friendly Venary units, Elathia Venary units, will use their Aether Quartz reserves instead of just 1. So basically 2 people can do it in a phase. And it's only once per turn. But it's going to blow through your Aether Quartz pretty fast. Zytrick, I'd want a casting, dispelling, and unbinding rules for Zytrick Wizards, although there's a lot of Deep Thinker in the list now, so that's not going to really benefit the people that just auto-cast on 9s. Illumnia, claim the field. If the base of each model and a friendly Illumnia Venari unit's touching 2 or more models, so if they're in Shining Company, basically, each model in that unit that's within 6 of an objective counts as 2 models. So your Shining Company guys count as 2 models, basically. And it's Venari units, so they all have Shining Company. Great Nation of Helon, add one of the attack characteristic of missile weapons used by friendly Helon units when they're more than 6, sorry, while they're within 6 of enemy units. They can go danger close and get +1 of their shooting attacks. And that's it. It's pretty simple, right? Then you have all of your sweets, Purifiers of the Realms, Path to Glory. You're basically trying to cleanse all the bad guys out of the place. And it's very like, we see there's chaos everywhere. Like, the Lumineth aren't really the good guys, right? Like, they're trying to, they're on a purge. There's a lot of purging happening. It's a purge planet, Morty. I got my fill of that pretty fast. They give it fancy, pretty sounding names, but it's really just killing everyone that disagrees with them. And then match play your grand strategies. So you got 4 options here. Venari Assault's the first one. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there's 4 or more friendly Venari units in the battlefield and the model picked to be your opponent's turn was slain. Your Illumination. When the battle ends, you complete this if there's friendly scenario in each quarter of the battlefield. And then Alerth Aftershock. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if 2 more Alerth units are contesting 2 more objectives. And Hurricane Cyclone. When the battle ends, you complete the grand strategy if 3 more friendly Hurricane units are within 6 of the same enemy unit on the battlefield. So there's one for every basically like lean into unit type, right? Wind people, stone people, magic people, battle line people. Yeah, the assault feels like the easiest one to do. Some of them are relatively complicated. There isn't one here that's just like hey, clearly we're going to take this one because it's kind of a given. Probably the Venary assault because you're going to need battle line, and having 4 more Venary units left is probably pretty easy if you have Wardens and Sentinels and you've kept them safe and you just like picked away at everything. I don't know. You might not even just take a Lumineth Realmlords one and just take a standard one, because keeping your wizards alive is way easier than doing this, and you have tons of wizards in your army. Like, there isn't one here that I think is better than a core one, I guess is what I'm saying. Battle tactics. Paths to Enlightenment. Priority target. Pick an enemy monster on the battlefield, and you complete this tactic if it's killed by Star Shard Ballistas. Conserve Aether Quartz. Pick an enemy unit in the battlefield and a friendly Lumineth that has at least 1 Aether Quartz. You complete this tactic if that enemy unit is destroyed by them and they didn't use their Aether Quartz. Or you could use someone that has 2 Aether Quartz, use an Aether Quartz, and then still have 1 left. So there's a couple of neat little tricks in there. I mean, this requires you to take Star Shard Ballistas, which aren't super popular right now, but they've got some improvements. Blind the enemy. Complete this tactic if 4 more spells successfully cast with different Lumineth Realmlords units in the turn. That's probably going to get done in the first turn if you've got Techless and some deep thinkers. Elemental Supremacy. Pick an enemy hero on the battlefield and a friendly elementary unit that has at least 1 Aether Quartz. If you kill him with the elementary, then you've got it. Hyshian Manifest. Complete this tactic if there are 2 or more endless spells from your army on the battlefield at the end of the turn. That's not that hard, and it doesn't have to be Hyshian ones either. It can be any endless spells. Ignore the odds. When you reveal this battle tactic, pick a friendly Realmlords unit that has and an enemy unit that are within an inch of each other. You complete this tactic if the enemy unit is destroyed in the turn, and the Realmlords unit you picked has not been destroyed. So ignoring the odds, that feels like an easy one. Hyshian Manifest feels like an easy one. Elemental Supremacy, no. Blind the enemy. So those 3 right there feel pretty much like the ones you're going to try and do, and then off you go. Because you only have to do 5 in a game, right? So there's 3 out of your 5. Pick 2 from the current battle, the pitch battle that you think are cool. Those 3 seem pretty easy. All right, here he is, Big T. It's Water T. Water T is ready to fight. His big change is really just to his Archmage ability, the teensiest bit. And it's that his Archmage ability is now tied to his wound table. His wound table is condensed. At 6, he starts to degrade. Sorry, at 7, he starts to degrade. And then 10 to 12 and 13 plus. So it's basically he's fine and dandy and everything's the same. His Moonbright's talons are 6 and 5 at the first 2 brackets. His aura is 16 and 12 for his shrugs and his blinding light. Sorry, blinding light's always 18. My bad. It's just the protection of Techless. And he casts 1, 2, or 4 spells. Once he gets to 10 wounds, he can only do the cast 2 on 10, or the 4, he loses the automatic cast. And at 13 plus, he can just cast 4 spells, and that's it. He's got to roll. Oh, sorry, they're always 10. It's always 10, always 12, or automatic. It's still, like, it's so irrelevant almost that they degrade, because casting 4 spells on 10, you might as well just be casting them automatically against some armies. Like, you're not rolling dice. That casts pretty much every spell in the game. I don't think I can think of anything that has a casting value of higher than 10. And like most armies only have like 2 to 3 dispels, and you gotta YOLO it on 2d6 try to beat a 10. You gotta roll an 11 plus on 2d6. You might as well be casting 4 automatically. It's pretty easy. That's his really only change. Everything else is the same. Light of Eltharion, he lost his command ability. He can't do the Valorous thing anymore, so no more auto-passing morale within 24 of him. And then he went to flat 3 damage on both of his swords, and his when he does his Selenari Blade attack, instead of being damage 3, it's damage 2d3. That's his big change. Also, gained a wound, went to 8. Lyria Uthriel, his Demon Blade got an extra attack. His Ren went down on it, though, to 1. And he got damage 2 on the Regent's sword. That's really his only change. The Lord Regent got the same Regent Sword damage buff. Oh, sorry, and some metal weapons on them, they do the mortal wounds equal to, that was the one thing I didn't actually underline that there. They do the damage of the attack, so because the damage on the Regent Sword went up, when he triggers his mortal wounds on 6s, it does 2 mortal wounds instead of 1, which is nice. That's a damage upgrade for them. Venary Bannerblade, World Banner just completely changed on the top half of it, so now instead of being a weird leadership bonus, of Leadership 10, it's reroll charge rolls for friendly Lumineth within 18 of them. And then it keeps the once per battle World Banner D3 mortal wounds thing. The Orlan Sentinels, they changed Scryhawk Lantern again. It's not ignore cover anymore. It used to be ignore line of sight, then it was ignore cover. They got changed again to add 6 to the range characteristic of this unit's lofted bows while they're within 12 of any other friendly sentinels or ballistas. So basically they get a range bonus from it now. So the lofted goes to 30 inches. They're back to 30-inch range, but they don't have no line of sight anymore as long as they're next to or within 12 of another unit of either the sentinels or one of the ballistas. They're really trying to lean into the ballistas, I think. These guys, the Wardens, just lost their Mortal Woundy Shrug thing from their banner. And that's it. Oh, that's not them. No. They lost something. They lost a Mortal Wound Shrug. Oh, no. I can't read my own writing. Hang on. I just realized I can't read my own writing. Let's see what actually happened here. Most of my notes were great. That note was terrible. It just says no something Mortal Wound. It's... Oh, the Moonfire Flask. They lost the Moonfire Flask. It's gone. So no more Moonfire Flask. That's what I actually said. No Flask Mortal Wounds. The Moonfire Flask has just disappeared. It doesn't exist anymore. Dawn Riders are completely identical, didn't change at all. The Venary Star Shard Ballista gained an attack and it's a hit, so it hits on 2s now. Keen-Eyed Artillerist, if it targets a monster, it's damage flat 3 instead of D3, which is cool. The Warding Lantern, if it sits still, it gets a 6+ ward. And then Scryhawks are the same as on the Sentinels. It gets 6 inches to its standard bolts, or Star Shard bolts, if it's within 12 of another Sentinel unit. Basically, they all upgrade their ranges if they're next to each other. Blade Lords lost their banners, so they don't have a spell deflect anymore, and then their perfect strike changed to just dual mortal wound on a 2+. It's not a hit roll anymore, which means you can't modify it with hit roll modifiers. It's just if you do a perfect strike, make it roll an attack die, and on a 2, or sorry, for every perfect person making them, roll 1 die on a 2+, take a mortal wound. And then obviously Shining Company is in here now, which we expected to see, and it's -1 to hit if everyone's in base to base with 2 or more models. So they have Shining Company. You'll notice that Dawn Riders still have Shining Company, the Wardens have Shining Company, and the Sentinels still have Shining Company. So those are your still Shining Companies so far. I should probably point that out. Cathlar, they got Deep Thinkers. So they got the Enlighteners, Deep Thinkers. They can cast a spell on a 6. So it's first spell, or sorry, first spell goes off on a 9 with no roll, but it can be unbound. And then they lost their transfer bad things. They have Absorb Despair now. There's no more transference. Once per phase, if a friendly unit uses its Aether Course reserve while it's wholly within 18 of any friendly units with this ability, you can say that this unit will absorb the negative energy. If you do so, do not subtract 1 from the bravery. Instead, pick an enemy unit within 18. If you do so, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of that unit for the rest of the battle. You can't be affected by this more than once per battle. So they changed the name to Absorb Despair and slightly altered the ability. It's only once per phase. Darkness of the Soul, it's a range, a casting of 7, a range of 18. If you cast it, it's the same as before. Didn't even change. I don't know why I put a note on that. Enlightener's damage went up to 2, and then they just modified this slightly for the Rune of Enthalay. On a 3+, you can immediately resolve the spell effect twice if they get the spell cast not unbound, but you can't pick the same unit. So you couldn't like double down on a on Arcane Blast or something like that on them, which is different from what's around now. Caligrave gained Deep Thinkers and went to damage 2 on his blades. The Lore Seeker gained Deep Thinker as well for an auto cast on a 9. And then Lone Agents, no more. It doesn't. You don't have the. If you infiltrate and grab an objective, you can't take it back from him until he's dead. It's just he counts as 10 models now, because that was a bonkers ability to just see like I send 100 Iron Guts over there. Oh, he's still alive. I can't take the objective. He just counts as 10 models. You can take it away from him. The Alarith Spirit of the Mountain gained 2 wounds. His brackets all got condensed, so he's top bracket at 6, 25-inch for his Geomantic Blast. His hammer's 5 damage, and his Shockwave is 12-inch range. And then at 7, he drops to 24 and 10. At 10, he drops to 15, 3, and 8. And at 13+, it's 10, 2, and 6. He gained Enduring his Rock. All the Alarith did, which means that they ignore Rend of 1. If you take the one, they have a Rend of 2 as well, which means they always have a 3+ save. And then Faith in the Mountains got an addendum, so that if you issue this thing, you can do it D3 times. And you get +1 attack to your Alarith Elf units, but you don't spend any extra command points to do it extra times. So he can basically yell at D3 units to get +1 attack, which is cool. But they can't double down. Stonemage gained a 4+ save, which is cool, because he's fighty and is wearing a giant helmet. And he gained Enduring his Rock and damage 2 on his staff. The Stone Guard got a 2-inch range on their stone mallets. Finally, the 1-inch range was murderously bad. It really hurt them for being able to get everybody into melee, especially with Shining Company, so now they can fight over each other. And then the paired hammers lost their reroll, but got more attacks. So it kind of evens out. They don't reroll to hit, but you're throwing more dice at 3s and 3s. Crushing Blow is a mortal wound, now instead of increasing the damage if they get a 6 to hit. And then Fortitude of the Earth, they have a 4+ ward save against mortal wounds only, while they're contesting an objective that you control. So cool, still 2 wounds. It was hard for them to compete against the Venary Blade Lords. They have some cool stuff now. Doing mortal wounds is a big deal. The ignoring rend is a big deal, even though they have the same save now. Being able to ignore the -1 is kind of cool. And if you take them in, if you're going to lean into them, take the nation, obviously, that lets you ignore -2. Velinor got the same wound track and gained 2 wounds as well. And then his whole thing is he can issue it 3 times instead of rolling D3 for the +1 attack to his elf units. So if you lean into Stone Guard and just took all Stone Guard, there's an army there probably. Take the ignore -1 and -2. Give them all kinds of extra attacks so like they can do the Stone Mallet and Diamond Pick hammers and just get 3 attacks each. And then Eleni and Elithor, they just got an extra... or no, they lost an attack on their Moonbright Talons. They lost an attack, went to 1 from 2. And otherwise they're entirely the same. Move like the Wind for the Hurricane Wind Mage. When you make a pile-in move with this unit, it does not have to finish the move no further from the nearest enemy unit than it was at the start of the move. In addition, when you make a pile-in move from this unit, if it made a charge move, it can go an extra 3 inches. So it can pile in 6, and you don't have to go towards the enemy, basically. You can just pile in however you want. And his damage went to 2 on his Aspergillib. The Wind Chargers, they lost a rend on their bows in melee for the danger close shooting, and then their arrows now ignore ward rolls for wounds and mortal wounds caused by attacks made with missile weapons from this unit. So that's a pretty cool, like ignoring ward saves is a huge deal. Like imagine you could just go start hunting in Drasta. Yeah, you can just like kill Drasta with them. They have 2 shots each, 3s and 3s -1. She'd be saving on force no ward. That's gross. Ignoring ward's a big deal. Actually, hunting lots of big things that lean into ward would be a big deal. That right there might make them worth taking. They also have the pile-in thing, move like the wind. So they don't have to make the pile-in moves. It's the same. All the Hurricane get will move like the wind. Severith also got it. He doesn't get the pile-in penalty now from Into the Gale, though. Just a 5+ ward. Same with the Into the Gale on the Spirit of the Wind. He gains Move Like the Wind, and Scour is just the Monstrous Rampage for... he's not a monster, but he can do the Monstrous Rampage to destroy a building. All of his other core stats are the same. Mayari gained Deep Thinkers, which is cool, and all of the Purifiers attacked got D3 damage. And then the Hyshian Twinstones and the Sanctum of Amintok are all identical, as is the Rune of Petrification. Yes, I'm as surprised as you are. I thought that miserable thing would have changed it all. The only other thing is that instead of once per turn or once per battle round, now the Shrine Guardian ability can be used for issuing a command without a command points being spent for the Shrine of Luminor. And that's it. Some point tweaks. Ballistas are 130, and they're really encouraging you to take them. They're artillery slots, though, so you're only ever going to have 2 usually in your army if you're playing 2,000 points. Wardens are 150 in battle line. They're your core battle line. For each Venary, Orla, and Wardens unit in your army, you can take either a Sentinel or Dawn Rider unit as a battle line choice, too, so you can double down. And that means if you want to take 3 battle line, you could go like double Wardens or double Sentinels, and then double Sentinels, sorry. And then your Owl of the Spirit of the Mountains, 380. The Stonemage is 120. The Twins are 260. Hurricane Spirit of the Wind is 250. The Windmage is 120. Light of Eltharian's 240, but I think he's probably worth it now with all that flat damage. The Warden of Metrica, Lyrior Uthrael is 190. Mayari and the Purifiers are 235. The Caligrave's 115, and the Cathalar's 110. Enlightener's 170. Lore Seeker's 160. Severith's 320 now, holy moly. Venary Bannerblade is 100, and the Lord Regent's 170. Teclis is 700 points. Velinor is 420. Out of Stoneguard are 120, and they're battle line and Metrica. So you could just go all Stormguard if you want to. And then the Hurricane Wind Chargers are 150 and battle line in a Helon army. The Sentinels are 150, and you get them as battle line if you unlock them. And then Blade Lards are 130, and for every Cenari hero you take, you can have one as a unit of battle line. Dawn Riders are 140 also. 50 for Twin Stones, Petrification's 40, and Amintok Sanctum is 50 as well. And you can take Daughters of Cain, Sylvaneth, Idnith, and Stormcast as your allies. So yeah, there's a couple cool builds. I don't know, I like that they made the Stonemage. I really like the Stonemage miniatures, and so I am excited that they made them more, I think, viable, given the mortal wounds instead of a damage increase. Having them shrug rend, they feel like they got a lot of legs. I do feel like that the Nation of Illumnia? No, not Illumnia. Which one is it? It's the one where they ignore rend. -1 to -2. Metrica. Yeah, it's Metrica, the big main one. That's gonna be a cool ability, and you could make a pretty, because you put Teclis in it. That's the question. For 700 points, you take Teclis. You're taking a Metrica. You take 3 units of the Stone Guard. There are only 5 models, so 3 units of Stone Guard is 360. So you're at 1,060, and you got your battle line and a leader. And then you go. I mean, if you're gonna go mountain guy, go big mountain guy. So you take a Velenor. So you're at that 1480, and then 500 points to taste. So maybe like Wardens, Ballista, and Sentinels. So Warden, Ballista, and Sentinels is 300, 430. Yeah, and like an endless spell or 2, and then you're ready to rock. Like take one of these ones, and then like another one, so you could do the battle tactic where you can summon 2 of them, like a cheapo and a Hyshian Twin Stones, or a Rune of Petrification, because I think that's still an amazing spell for 40. And you got a cool unit. You only have 1 hero. It's Teclis. You could maybe fit a baby hero in somewhere who's cheap. The Cathalar maybe. You fit her in for some extra casting and stuff. And there's 1,000 points, or 2,000 points. Sorry. So yeah, Lumineth. Again, it feels like this was a little bit maybe deeper of tweaks and stuff than some of the past books, because it's not just updating the 3rd. It was doing some like rebalancing to make other things more viable. And I really like that kind of game design. Don't necessarily punish things that are good, but make things that weren't interesting. So I like that the Stone stuff's a little bit more interesting. I like that the Windrider's a little bit more interesting. One of my favorite books I think Games Workshop's ever done was the Goblin book. And Owen and I played so much against the Gloomspite Gits, or with them, because he played them and he loved that army. But I think the reason he loved that army so much was there was more than one way to make the same Battletome and make it interesting and make like a different sort of like style list that had a chance on the table and could play okay. And the Realmlords feel like those 2 other army builds with the Windriders and the Stone Mages have just been like lifted up a little bit. It pushed, I mean, the Sentinels were non-interactive and no one expected them to stay the way that they were, but like everything else kind of operates the same with like some tweaks here and there, but they have lifted those 2 things up. And giving the bows ignore ward save as like a hunting unit is really cool, and then pile in any direction they want, so they can pile out of combat if they want to, is really cool. There's a bunch of like neat stuff that both those armies got that I think that they didn't have before, and that makes them an interesting choice to try and make an army with. So there it is, Lumineth Realmlords. Big thanks for watching. We'll see you for more GMG reviews in the future. Thundermash. Have a good one. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look to the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Deathray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.